Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the steering committee this morning of the Gandhi Salt March Festival. Now, you may be aware I've been doing a project connected with my MBA studies, and it's a project around stakeholder engagement elements of the Salt March Festival. The festival had its genesis, I believe, in a project that Jim Varghese worked on, which was the design and development and then the successful installation of the Mahatma Gandhi statue in the Roma Street parklands. The festival is something which long-term the founder, Jim Varghese, is hoping will be something that is in the community calendar for the years to come. So this particular project that I'm working on is a collaboration between QUT, the Graduate School of Business, and the festival founder, Jim Varghese, and it represents an excellent opportunity for QUT to be engaged in a fabulous inaugural community festival, but also and deliver on the QUT philosophy of a university for a real world. But it also really offers the access to some contemporary and enthusiastic expertise in different areas of the festival as it moves through its life cycle. The festival, I guess, critical elements of the stakeholder engagement project that I'm working on is that the first steps was to look at where some data and information could be sourced from, and how I could use that information to certainly make the engagement, the stakeholder engagement element of the festival robust and very credible. So the data was captured from three areas. There was a review of the current and contemporary literature and obviously the prevailing wisdom of knowledge. There's no need to relearn stuff if someone's already captured that information. Let's make good use of that. There's certainly I conducted interviews with key influencers, the informants as we call them, and that was in collaboration with Jim Varghese. We identified those people who would be suitable to conduct interviews with. And the other area where information which has fed into the project has been captured is in a more unstructured format through the steering committee meetings, of which there's been 2 so far, and many informal meetings with Jim in talking about the various steps that we need to go through and the hurdles that we need to jump over as we go along. So first of all, the literature through the resource dependency theory really emphasises the importance that the festival managers and the steering committee must place on sourcing adequate resources for the success of the festival. Now, that may be sponsorship, but it may also include things like marketing, like engaging enough champions so that there's a groundswell community-wise. But it's a really a fundamental element of what the role of the festival management team and the steering committee is about. The second element of the research, the literature review, was around the stakeholder engagement and why conduct stakeholder engagement. Again, it feeds into a successful resources delivery theory, and then some information on how to categorise stakeholders, how to identify them, flowing on into information around what sort of communication strategies are going to be most effective to ensure the best relationships with the stakeholders and the most appropriate ones are maintained and delivered, and hopefully to try and not have any surprises. Of course, we're going to have them along the way, but with a bit of planning, we might be able to mitigate some of those surprises. The other area of literature that was touched on was in the sponsorship field, and initially that was not part of the scope of this project, but became very apparent it's going to be a very important part of this particular stakeholder engagement element. The major findings for the project began in the literature, and I guess the most critical thing that came out of the literature were the stakeholder models and how to categorise the stakeholders themselves. In the first instance, Getz and his team of colleagues purported a model which is specifically for festivals and actually categorises in stakeholders with regard to their role in relationship to the festival. So their role could be, depending on the time, their roles could vary over time. And one of the key features of this particular model is that they can also have dual roles. So for someone like the Brisbane City Council, they will definitely be a regulator at some stage. They have the the parklands and things that we need to ensure we're meeting all of those rules and regulations in the delivery of the festival. But we're also hoping that they will be a champion, that various staff members of theirs will be champions for us, and also that they will be a sponsor. So their involvement with the festival is certainly got a duality, maybe tripality, if that's a word, and they certainly will be an integral part of the festival going forward. The same applies for the Ipswich City Council and potentially for other stakeholders that we will have engaged as well. The next step is to look at, having identified and categorised the stakeholders, to look at their salience within the project. And so by salience, that's got to do with, that'll help us, calculate or create the communications methodologies and communications techniques that we're going to engage to get the strongest relationships with those stakeholders. The salience of a stakeholder can be, based on three pillars. So it's based on power, it's based on urgency, and it's based on legitimacy. And stakeholders will have one or two or three of those pillars of the salience, which will identify the nature of their relationship. So the festival will also so having identified and mapped the stakeholders, we then looked at ways that some of the methodology of the communications that may be used for the stakeholder engagement, and certainly it's not the be all and end all, and there's rooms for further expertise and further insights into this area. The interviews delivered some fascinating insights and some really good, robust, recommendations for the festival. There was three key themes that came through. The first one was to ensure that the festival has a really clear goal and a very clear vision, that there is a good understanding of what the festival is about and what it hopes to deliver. In MBA speak, that really means making sure that the festival's got a clearly articulated business canvas, or that it's got a great business canvas, and that it's got a very clearly articulated value proposition. Now, that will be fundamental to the relationships that we have with the stakeholders, and how we engage with the stakeholders as well. The second area that was a sort of thematic through the conversations was really around ensuring that the principles of the Gandhi name and the Gandhi concepts are respected and are well integrated into the festival, and that one of the key principles being that the diversity, equality, and so therefore the festival would need to have a focus on as broad a community engagement as possible. There is a potential for the community that Gandhi came from to be very strong, have a strong ownership of the festival, and perhaps rightly so. For the festival to have longevity, the consensus is that it's going to need to appeal for, as I said, as many people as possible. The implications of that from a long-term management perspective is that we're going to really need to look closely at who we approach as sponsors to be sponsors for the festival, and that will help us get diversity of interest and diversity of community into the festival. And the third area that the interviewees commented on, and this was an unprompted area, was around potential risk for the festival. The good news is that the risks that they identified are ones that we could quite easily, or we will be able to quite easily mitigate with preparing a risk register and working our way through it and having strategies for addressing those risks. So the first risk was around, and again, potential misalignment of the festival goals with and the festival expectations for community who are engaged in it, so people not understanding exactly what it was about. Another risk was around the damage to the Gandhi name if that was not treated respectfully. That was a concern. And the third risk around engaging with as broad a community as possible. So the project has been a very useful project in coalescing prevailing thoughts, whether it's from the steering committee, whether it's from the interview people, or whether it's been from the prevailing literature. There's certainly a wealth of information and that's available to the festival committee, and this report has been really about trying to get more of that information available and in a digestible form. Thank you.